A&M researchers are working to develop the first oral anthrax vaccine for livestock and wildlife. 25 News reporter Hannah King shows us how crucial that vaccine is to ensure animals can survive the disease.
Data from the Texas Animal Health Commission indicates that last year, Texas made headlines due to a spike in anthrax cases in cattle.
Anthrax is something that a lot of people might know about. It can infect humans, but it's also more naturally occurring in wildlife.
Introducing Dr. Jamie Ben Felix, a postdoctoral research associate in the Cook Wildlife Lab, and the woman working to develop the first oral anthrax vaccine for wildlife and livestock.
It forms these very resilient, dormant spores that live in the soil for decades to hundreds of years. We don't actually know how long they can survive, and so when animals are out in whatever area they're ranging in or grazing, they can ingest the spores or inhale the spores, and then they can become infected with anthrax.
Dr. Ben Felix says the inhalation can kill the animals within 1 to 3 days. She also says the effects of anthrax is also a huge economic issue, particularly across the state of Texas.
Every year there are anthrax outbreaks, and sometimes those are worse than other years. Like last summer was particularly bad, where we estimate that there was probably around 10,000 animals that were killed by it.
Dr. Ben Felix says if you estimate that each one of those animals was worth $1,000, that can quickly add up to $10 million in losses over a few months. These staggering numbers are from Texas alone in the Hill Country area. There is already one vaccine for animals, but it requires a hand injection every year.
If you're trying to vaccinate livestock or wildlife with a hand-injected vaccine every single year, that's really time-consuming and costly for livestock, but then when it comes to wildlife, it's logistically impossible.
With her work and her research, she is coming up with an oral vaccine without any human contact or hand injections needed.
What we can do with an oral vaccine is we can put it into some bait and then just lay it out, have wildlife come up and eat it, and get that immune response and that antibody response going so that they're protected against it. Big round bubble, that's the capsule, the microcapsule, and then the little black dots all throughout are the harmless bacteria that we're using to vaccinate the animals with.
Wildlife biologist Macy Ledbetter says an oral vaccine is a game changer.
This oral vaccine and this anthrax remedy excites me because now we can potentially do something about it.
Ledbetter says for someone managing a wildlife herd, every year numbers are key, and as long as the adult deer population stays safe, you can manage them better.
But when we have these literally boom and bust, or these anthrax outbreaks, these disease outbreaks that decimate a deer herd, well then we're constantly just rebuilding the herd, and that's entirely different than managing the herd.
Dr. Ben Felix says her efforts right now are focused on white-tailed deer, but down the road they could potentially move towards other wildlife like kudu or zebras, and eventually livestock like cows, horses, goats, and sheep.
A lot of positive feedback, so there's definitely a need. We want to help. We want to do everything we can.
Dr. Ben Felix says it is extremely important that if you have an anthrax outbreak on your property that you report it and find a way to get them information about the number of potential animals killed. That way they can help solve this anthrax problem. Reporting in Bryan, Hannah King, 25 News.